to my humble kitchen. My name is Chef Amy Symington. I'm so happy to have you here today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about ways that you can increase your plant-based protein in your daily diet. A little bit about myself first and foremost. I am a plant-based chef, a nutrition professor and researcher at a local college here in Toronto. I also work for a not-for-profit cancer organization called Gilda's Club. I'm the Culinary Nutrition Program Coordinator there. And I also do recipe development and food writing for different publications in Toronto. So pleased to be with you today to talk a little bit about my favorite types of food, which is whole plant-based foods and whole plant-based protein in particular. So if you're looking at Canada's food guide, you'll see that half of the plate is fruits and vegetables, wonderful. A quarter of the plate is dedicated to whole grains, and another quarter of the plate is dedicated to protein, with an emphasis on plant-based protein. And so sometimes that can be a little bit daunting to some people, and so I'm here today to tell you that it doesn't have to be, and there are lots of different ways that you can get plant-based protein into your daily diet. Fun, tasty ways too. It does not have to just be, peanut butter and toast or just split pea soup, that sort of thing. So we're going to get really adventurous today. But before I start, just kind of going over 4 different main areas that you want to be focusing on, or 4 different types of foods that you want to be focusing on to increase that plant-based protein in your daily diet. So there are some proteins that are deemed to be a complete protein, which means that they contain all 9 essential amino acids that our body requires. We don't necessarily have to focus on those solely, but it is nice to get those into you. So I'll give you some examples of those. And then there's some other ones that don't necessarily contain all 9 essential amino acids, but you don't need to worry about it, because if you're consuming a wide variety of different plant-based proteins throughout the day, you'll be getting enough protein, more than enough protein. Okay, so first and foremost, I like to focus on legumes. And so legumes is just kind of a fancy word for things like beans. So things like chickpeas, lentils, black beans, adzuki beans, pinto beans, you get the gist. There's so many different types of legumes that are out there. So get those into you as much as possible, not just in, soups and stews, but you can also put them into burgers, desserts. I'm going to show you how to use some legumes in desserts today too. So that'll be kind of adventurous, but it's also so tasty, and you'll see how easy it can be once we go through the recipes. Number 2, nuts and seeds. So getting those good healthy fats, but as well as that protein too. Any nuts that you like, peanuts, almonds, cashews, hazelnuts, Brazil nuts, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. If you can't have nuts, obviously don't be consuming those. Can include seeds, however. So seeds like sunflower, pumpkin, hemp seeds, chia seeds, flax seeds, these all contain protein, but also healthy fats, as well as vitamin E, which is a great component of an anti-inflammatory diet. So if we're talking about complete proteins, hemp seeds would be a good one to include, as they are a complete protein containing all 9 of those essential amino acids. And then soy protein is another good one. It is a complete protein. You can drink it in soy milk form. Always make sure you're drinking unsweetened beverages though. Other ways you can get soy protein into you, tofu is another good one, edamame, tempeh, miso, those are all great methods of getting soy protein into you. And not only is it a complete protein, it can also help to lower your LDL and total cholesterol. So that's good news for soy protein. It's also been shown to be a good part of an anti-cancer diet as well, potentially reducing the risk of prostate and breast cancer. And then last but not least, so after soy protein, my 4th ingredient that I highly recommend getting into to increase your plant-based protein is whole grains. So sometimes you would think, whole grains, that doesn't contain protein, but it does actually, particularly if you're focusing on ones that are whole so the bran is still intact. Specifically, quinoa and buckwheat are complete proteins. So again, containing all 9 essential amino acids that our body requires. And then some other good ones, brown rice, kamut, amaranth, millet, these are all good whole grains to include. Of course, some contain more protein than others. The 2 that I mentioned are very high in protein. So buckwheat, which you can use in things like pancakes, muffins, any sort of baking that you're doing. Crepes would be another good one. And then quinoa, of course, you can be utilizing just as a base for a salad or a stir-fry curry, and it's super tasty. and very easy to digest as well. Of course, when you're cooking any sort of grains, make sure that you're rinsing them first thoroughly before you then follow the directions according to that particular grain. Okay, so that's the fact portion. Now we're going to get into the fun portion, which is the actual practical application of those 4 ingredients that I just mentioned that will increase your plant-based protein. So first, we're going to start with dessert. We're going to be making some chickpea blondies. Before we start, I should mention that all of these recipes are coming from the Long Table Cookbook, Plant-Based Recipes for Optimal Health, which I am the author of. Let me grab a copy so you can have a look at that. So there it is. And as I've said in the past, I have no problems promoting it because all of my author proceeds go to support the social, emotional, and nutritional programming at Gilda's Club Greater Toronto. So anyone who's been touched by cancer benefits when you purchase a copy of that. I'll set that back there for your viewing pleasure. So yeah, all the recipes come from the cookbook. So chickpea blondies. So you've probably had regular blondies before, very high in simple carbohydrates, not so high in protein. These ones we're going to be using chickpeas. Okay, so chickpeas, we have about 2 cups there, already cooked. Make sure you've cooked them, or if they're canned, you're thoroughly washing them and trying to find cans that are maybe BPA free. Okay, maple syrup is the sweetener of choice here, so I've got about 1/3 of a cup there. Next, we're going to be adding hemp seeds. So as I mentioned, hemp seeds are a complete protein. They also contain high levels of omega-3 fatty acids, which are good healthy fats that you want to be including in your daily diet. Get those in there. And then flax seeds. So the flax seeds, again, good healthy fat, but also helps to bind and keep the chickpeas from kind of crumbling and falling apart. And I'm just putting this in a food processor. Okay. Next up, I've got some vanilla, about 1.5 tablespoons. And then next up, I've got about 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. So those are going in as well. Great. And then we're going to zhuzh this up. Great. Okay, and so that should be good to go. That's great. So next up, I'm actually going to add in about 1/2 of the required dark chocolate. I've chopped some unsweetened dark chocolate to go in the chickpea blondies. And I'm just going to pulse it so it gets kind of mixed in. Okay, perfect. And this is what it should look like. And then we take our handy dandy spatula. The recipe calls for an 8x8 pan, but if you just have a loaf pan, that works as well. And then all you do is you grease it with a little bit of coconut oil, and I've put some parchment paper in there so they're easy to take out once they've cooked. With these ones, once they've baked, so I've preheated the oven to 375, and once these have baked, you are going to want to let them sit for about 10 minutes to cool, otherwise they will crumble a little bit. Okay. So just spread this evenly on the pan. These are great to make ahead, and they're also great for your gluten-free friends because there's actually no gluten present. And I mean, you could use a sweetened chocolate if you really wanted to. I just try to stick to the dark chocolate because it's very rich in antioxidants. Polyphenols in particular. Great. Perfection. So you can see I've got that so far. And then sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. And you know what? The more chocolate, the better is what I always say. So while those are baking, we're gonna move on to the next recipe. Okay, the next recipe on our menu today is the ultimate chocolate protein powder, or the ultimate protein shake. Very, very, very simple ingredients here. And again, we're utilizing plant-based protein as the preliminary source of protein. And you'll see actually, as I go through it, I have a wide variety of different types of plant-based protein. Firstly, I have some chia seeds. So chia seeds, high in protein, also high in omega-3 fatty acids. So I'll put those in. Okay. That was about 1/4 cup. Next, I'm going to throw in some hemp seeds. Again, complete protein, rich in omega-3 fatty acids. Plug that in. Great. And then the next 2 ingredients are actually optional. If you can find them, great. If you can't, you're free to omit them. Maca powder is the next one. This is probably the strangest ingredient that can be found in the cookbook. And it just gives like a really nice earthy taste. Also a really good source of energy, carbohydrates in particular. And it just nicely rounds out the flavor here. Okay, next up I've got a little bit of stevia. So it's ground stevia leaf. So if you've heard of stevia, it's a sweetener alternative. I like it. If you don't like the taste of it, completely omit it, and you can use things like maple syrup or a banana or a date to sweeten your smoothies. But if you don't mind, you can throw it in. So stevia, and then of course chocolate, so we've got to add some cocoa. Great, so that was about 2 tablespoons of cocoa, about a teaspoon of the stevia, about 1/4 cup of hemp seeds and 1/4 cup of the chia seeds. Okay, and then next up I've got about 2 cups of just mixed berries. So in there, blueberries, cherries, and strawberries. Whatever you like, toss it in. Great, and then I've got about 2 cups of unsweetened soy milk. So again, soy is a complete protein, so that's why I'm utilizing that. In the cookbook, the protein powder recipe is in large quantity, so it actually suggests you making it ahead of time, and then you can just put it into a jar. And honestly, what you do is you just would then scoop it into your blender, throw in some berries, add your soy milk, blend it up, and you're done. So you can pre-make it ahead. I was making individuals here, so I've got 2 servings that will come out of this one. But you're welcome to make it ahead of time to save all of those steps. And then per serving, you'll find that this per serving, so one cup essentially of the shake is almost 18 grams of protein. So you can imagine a lot of protein for your breakfast or your snack. So it's keeping you fuller for longer and it's not spiking your blood sugar levels and dropping them. Okay, and again, sources of complete protein. We've got the hemp seeds in here as well as the soy. There you go. Bon appetit, or cheers. This is one of my all-time favorite recipes. If you know me, you know how often I make this recipe. We are making lentil and walnut tacos with a mango avocado salsa. One of my favorite recipes in the cookbook. Super easy. Part of the cookbook's process, we actually had some of our students help to develop recipes, and this is done by 2 of my star students, and I love it. It's so easy. Not only can you use the taco filling to use in tacos, but you can use it for other things as well. So if you wanted to make like a taco salad or a burrito, or if you wanted to use the filling for, say, a shepherd's pie or any sort of ground beef, you could use it as a ground beef substitute. It's really, really great. And so the primary sources of protein that you're finding here are the lentils and the walnuts. So lentils, high in protein, but also high in fiber, as well as iron. And then the walnuts, really good source of protein, but also healthy fats, specifically omega-3 fatty acids. So get those into you as much as possible. So we'll get that started. We'll set the mango avocado salsa ingredients to the side while we get this going. While this is heating up, I'm just going to dice this onion. Great. So if we're cutting an onion, we're leaving the root intact. We're cutting the end off. And this is a very large onion, so I'm probably only going to need to use half of it. Great. If you know me, I like to save all my veggie scraps so I can make stock. So peel our skin. So I always recommend getting one red vegetable into us every single day. So red onion can be classified as that, red pepper, red cabbage, radicchio, as well as one cruciferous, so all the stinky vegetables, kale, cauliflower, broccoli, cabbage, as well as an orange vegetable. Those are ones we want to focus on every single day for chronic disease prevention and management. They've got the most nutrients, the most antioxidants, high in fiber, and they themselves are functional foods as well. Okay, so I've left the root intact. Now I'm cutting through using my pincer grasp here, or my claw. Great. And then we're going to go horizontal cuts. So this is a big onion, so I'm probably going to do 3 horizontal cuts there, and then back through with my knife. And afterwards, if you need to go through again, just to make things a little smaller, you can. You're able to. Great. Okay. Perfect. Woo! That's a very potent onion. So there are techniques if you are not keen on cutting onions because they make you cry. Washing your knife with cold water between cuts or between a few cuts is a good way to do it. Goggles, people with glasses or contacts know that it's a little easier to cut onions. Rinsing your onion or putting it in cold water beforehand also is helpful. So we're going to save some of the red onion for the salsa as well. Great. So I'm using grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil is a monounsaturated fatty acid, and it also has a high smoke point. It means it doesn't start to smoke as easily, which means it doesn't become carcinogenic. Okay, so we're going to use about half of that onion, put that in there, and then we're going to save the other half. You can smell, I wish you could smell actually, the nice onion. So while that's cooking, we're going to move on to the next ingredient, which is garlic. So a lot of the dishes you'll find in the cookbook start with onions and garlic. They're both prebiotics, so they help with the growth of the already existing probiotics that are present in your system. So always good to get prebiotics into you. Garlic in particular contains allicin, which is a powerful antioxidant, good for an anti-inflammatory diet as well as an anti-cancer diet. And I'm just taking the tip off and I'm smashing them a little bit and feeling the skin. Okay, great. Smash it a little more. Ooh, you can hear that sizzle. Okay, let's do in here. We want to just make sure that they're translucent. We don't want to burn them. Great, and then chop, chop, chop the garlic. Having a sharp knife is very important. You're less likely to cut yourself if your knife is sharp, and it's less likely to be as bad if you do happen to cut yourself. All right, garlic, in you go. Yum. Okay, so good flavor enhancers to start with. I call garlic, ginger, zest, all those kind of things. My flavor enhancers, I call them flavor country in my household. So when we're preparing dinners, I'll be like, husband, are you on flavor country? And he'll chop up all the necessary ingredients to enhance the flavor in our meal for that evening. So we've got garlic, we've got onions. Next up, we're gonna add a little bit of tomato paste. So about 1/4 cup. Some cumin. All the measurements are in the cookbook, of course. Oregano. It's about 2 teaspoons of oregano and about a tablespoon of cumin so far. And then paprika, I'm using smoked, but you can use sweet, hot, whatever you prefer. Great. So that was about a teaspoon. And then some chili powder. We're doing about 2 teaspoons of chili powder. So again, we're upping the flavor without added salt, sugar, or unhealthy fats. And herbs and spices themselves also have heaps of antioxidants that are present, so great to include in your diet anyways. Okay, some black pepper. A little bit of cayenne. You can omit this if you like, just a pinch. Okay, and we'll cook out those spices and that tomato paste, because sometimes the tomato paste, if it's coming from a can, can taste a little bit tinny. So we can cook that out. Get that going there. And I'll show you what we have in store right now. See what's happening there. Okay, we're cooking that out. Okay, next, the plant-based protein. So we've got our lentils. Again, high in protein, high in fiber, also high in folate, which is great for the ladies with the babies or wanting to have the babies. We need that folate. And then walnuts. And then last but not least, about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of red wine vinegar. Just kind of adds a little, again, flavor without added fat, salt, or sugar. Okay, and we're gonna mix, mix, mix. We want everything to be incorporated. And you can see how it's a ground beef texture, or esque, kind of like ground beef. And it's got that umami flavor. So I'm just gonna let that, and I'm gonna put it on low and set that aside while we are making our salsa. So this is one of my favorite salsas. We've got our diced onion, and it's really easy to make. Okay, diced onion. We're gonna dice some mango. The mango adds a nice kind of citrusy, sour but sweet flavor to the salsa. And we're just gonna kind of dice, small dice. And I always say, my dad, when he was teaching me how to pitch in baseball, it's very important that you get your accuracy down before you increase your speed when we're talking about chopping. So once you have your accuracy down, then you can increase your speed. Otherwise, it's disastrous. I should say the pitching never panned out for me, but that's okay. I was a pretty good ball player, aside from that. Okay, cool. So mangoes in. This is one you can make ahead too, and you can use this for other things as well. You don't have to just use it for these tacos in particular. Okay, now these guys, wish you could smell it. I'm gonna turn it right off. Perfect, okay. Jalapeno, make it spicy. Okay, and you can take the seeds out or leave them in, whichever you prefer. For this amount, I'm just gonna use about half. And I will leave the seeds in. So you're wanting to mince the jalapeno, so very small. You could omit this, as I said, if you don't like it spicy. We do. Okay, in she goes. Great, and then next up, the avocado. So avocado, when you're wanting to determine whether or not it's ripe, one quick little trick you can do is just kind of feel if the stem is loose, and you should be able to wiggle it or move it or completely remove it. And so this one is ready to go. What you do, very carefully, use your knife, cut it in half, all the way around the pit, and then you just twist. Ta-da! And this avocado just happens to be perfect. I did not plan that, but I'm so happy it is. So next up, very important to have an acidic component in your salsa. So I like to use lime zest. So this has been thoroughly washed. I'm rolling it out to get the juices flowing. But first, before I cut it and juice it, I'm gonna zest it. Always zest your fruit, because if you're not gonna use it for that particular recipe, it's great in smoothies, baked goods, sauces. Again, adding an oomph of flavor without added fat, salt, or sugar. Okay, and then cut this in half. You can use a reamer, a spoon, or just your good old-fashioned elbow grease. And then also, we're gonna add a little bit of garlic. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing so far, or where I'm at so far. Oh my goodness. Put this stuff on everything. And a bit of garlic. So you could use, again, however much you want. One small clove, one large clove. It's up to you. And I'm going to use my microplane, which I call my handy dandy flavor enhancer. So I use garlic, ginger, zest, and it adds, again, flavor without all those things that we don't want to be including tons of in our diet. And then mix, mix, mix. And actually, I find that this salsa doesn't even need salt added to it. It's that flavorful. You've got the nice creamy mouthfeel of the avocado, a little punch of acid from the mango. Great. Perfect. I just want to show you this. Voila! Isn't that beautiful? Okay, cool. We'll set that aside with our cilantro for our tacos. So you can use whatever taco shells you like. You can use soft tacos, hard tacos, whatever you prefer. I found these ones just at my local grocery store. They're great, different colors and flavors. And all you do is spoon a little bit of the taco filling into the taco. I'm liberal with the salsa, so it may be a good idea to make extra. Okay. Yum. And also too, there are wonderful nutrients that are present in things like legumes and lentils in particular. It's very high in iron, so if you're coupling it with a vitamin C rich food like the mangoes, it's going to help with the bioavailability and the absorption of the iron that's present. So we have our smoothie, we have our tacos, and now I'm gonna go grab our Chickpea Blondies. Be right back. And here they are. Oh my goodness. Check that out. So what we would do is we let this sit for about a half an hour before we try to plate it at all, okay? I'm going to ignore that right now so that I can try and plate one for you right now. Okay. Cut down the sides here. Oh my gosh. Hopefully this works out. My son loves these. Again, it's a really great gluten-free, nut-free, high protein snack. And it feels really decadent because there's chocolate in it. That's beautiful. And you can see it's kind of crumbling a little bit, and that's why we would let it rest and completely cool for half an hour. You can cut them into bars, you can cut them into squares, whatever you prefer. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, so good. And we're done. Yum. Okay, so there you have it. 3 easy recipes to up your plant-based protein. So we've got our ultimate chocolate shake, high in soy protein as well as hemp seeds. As I mentioned, 1 glass is about 18 grams of protein, which is crazy high. Next, we have our lentil and walnut tacos with a mango avocado salsa topped with a little bit of cilantro. So we've got our walnuts and lentils in there that are a good source of plant-based protein. And then last but not least, our chickpea blondies, using chickpeas as well as hemp seeds to increase our plant-based protein intake. Okay, so I hope that was helpful for you. I hope that made your mouth water. These are 3 of my favorite recipes. And as I've said before, it's great to know all this information, but if it doesn't taste good, you're not going to get it into your system. So it's really important that these things are tasty as well as good for you. So Looking forward to hearing about how you are going to be including more plant-based protein in your diet and the creative ways that you come up with that using those 4 ingredients that I mentioned: legumes, nuts and seeds, soy, and whole grains. Okay? Thank you for joining me, and bon appetit.